Hello and welcome to the Isle of Nex. We are going to break down the Legend of Grimrock II today. I'd like to thank Almost Human Games for giving me early access to this and allowing me to form a good opinion already, just a bit before release. The game comes out Tuesday, October the 14th, so I'm recording this the day before so I can get it out early, and hopefully everything that I say now should be relevant to the full release because, I mean, this isn't a beta, it's the full game, so, you know, that's how it is. So welcome. Anyone who played the original will be immediately familiar with this, I think. Anyone who hasn't, well, let's get a little bit into the history of the series because a long time ago there were games, I think some of the most well-known ones go by the name of Dungeon Master and Eye of the Beholder. Eye of the Beholder was a favorite of mine. And they were these first-person dungeon exploration games. And they worked a lot like this. You see, you have a sort of tile-based movement system, so you don't free move, you move by squares as if the entire world was laid out in tiles. And it makes things look real. Turn-based, however, it's real-time. In this case, the game actually has a day-night cycle as well. As you can tell, it's a little bit nighttime right now. It takes a genius, I know. And the basic gist of the original game was to kind of revive that genre because it was a fairly specific PC-centric genre that sort of died out. And Almost Human Games, they're a Finnish-based developer, I believe, by the way, which is kind of cool. They basically single-handedly revived the genre. And there have been a few more sort of similar-like entries into it, and we've seen, even, people become more interested in games like Wizardry once again, with Steam having Wizardry 8 released on there, which is a classic and very, very good. Excuse me. And what you're going to be seeing is, in Legend of Grimrock II, they have taken a more Wizardry or Might and Magic approach to the world. Might and Magic 10 Legacy is a great one, by the way, besides the fact that it is really still buggy and sometimes makes people's graphics cards cry for no reason. Whereas the original, you were basically in a dungeon the entire time. You're in Grimrock. And in this case, you're on an island, and the island, as you can see here, is very open-ended. You can explore all of this on your own time, and this isn't it because there are also various areas underground that are not shown here. Now, in the original game, you had a 13-floor dungeon, and in this case, it is basically an open-world island, and you're allowed to explore it on your own time, which is interesting. Oh, hi. Hi there. Oh yeah, that's the silent one. And what you're going to be seeing, hopefully, in this video is that that's for the better, I think. It was almost as if the first game was a sort of revival in the original style and almost a proof of concept that people still enjoyed it. And now they've opened it up in a huge way. So we're going to get into it now. And I need to be headed... Where do I need to be headed? I am basically... I'm about 6-ish hours into the game right now. And as you can see, I've done a lot of exploring. I'm really obsessive-compulsive when it comes to games like this. I try and find every single secret I can. And now, in this game, they have vastly increased the equipment variety that you're going to be seeing. For a few main reasons, I would say, one of which is because enemies drop their equipment much more often. Whereas in the original, you would see the undead guards drop their equipment and a few others. In this case, a lot of enemies can drop various pieces of equipment, and you can also find a lot more just hidden around the place. And the set loot in things like pedestals and chests, especially secret chests, are still there and very important, like, say, this really awesome dagger right here, which was a secret within a secret, because you had to find a secret room that had a secret key to another secret room, and if you did all that, you got a very nice little dagger, and that's basically how the entire game is laid out. It's laid out with, you will get the basics you need to continue throughout the game, but if you are a bit obsessive and search for as many secrets as you can, you'll end up very well kitted out for all kinds of things. And one of the big features they've added so far, at the very beginning you'll notice, is the day-night cycle. And that actually is a big deal. It changes a lot of aspects of the game. And the reason it does that is because enemies respawn in this case. Now, that was somewhat the case in the first one, But in this one, enemies respawn all the time. Not so quickly that it's obnoxious, but quickly enough to where you're going to have to worry about going back to areas you've been to before. Which, first of all, is a good thing, because in a more open world style of island, you're going to be doing backtracking and also just finding new areas. And it would be kind of boring if every time you cleared out one of the big areas, you were going through, like, just walking in a totally empty, dead area for half an hour without anything to challenge you. But that's also important because it keeps your food supply up. Because since it's, like I said, a more open game, the hunger system is still in. Your characters need to eat. And if you could just explore constantly and have no enemies, you would be running out of food very quickly. But since a lot of enemies drop food now, you'll be having lots of turtle steaks and warg meat. That food source is also sort of sustainable for you. The orders came and the gates closed. The answers were sealed in the archives. Okay. So these guys give you little hints that are usually very cryptic as to many different things that did absolutely nothing. And what you're going to be seeing in this game is a huge variety not only in areas and environments. You're talking beaches, inlands, plains, swamps, islands, underwater bits, all kinds of stuff, big cemeteries, and of course mines, dungeons, and crypts and things like that. You're going to be seeing actually a massive amount of variety in this case, and that extends, as I said, to the equipment and to the enemies. You're seeing about 5 times the enemy variety that you saw in the first game. The first game had a bit over a dozen different types of enemies. In this case, you've got more like almost 60. That looks important. I would like to have that. But I need a key that I don't have. Typical. And the variety in puzzles matters a lot, because it makes it to where it's not as easy to breeze through certain sections because you know the gist of a puzzle. That music is terrifying. In this case, knowing the gist of a puzzle isn't really that important because the puzzle changes constantly. Can I dig that grave up? Is that going to get me killed? By the way, one of the new types of secrets, you have a shovel, which is actually a new feature, and you can dig up areas. Uh-oh. Digging things up can get you secret chests. You can find little notes that give you an indication that there is a secret in a certain part of the island. This guy's very strong. And, oh god, if you've never played one of these games before, you're probably noticing the combat system is a bit odd. And that is the case. It is quite strange. If you're not used to these types of games, it is a real-time combat system that looks sort of turn-based. There was absolutely no point in doing that, was there? I'm gonna reload. That got 2 of my characters killed and got me no treasure of any description, so I'm not doing that right now. But, what you're going to be seeing, I think, from the outset of this game is how open it is. Now, when I go back to the map, you can tell that there are a lot of directions to go. You start here, at Shipwreck Beach, and you will quickly realize that there are lots of little doors and hidden puzzles and some underground areas that are going to take you to who knows where, essentially. And you have to do a lot of exploring yourself. Now, in the first game, you weren't handheld, but you knew where to go most of the time because you had to get to the next floor. That was the gist of the progression of the game. You had to constantly keep diving deeper into Grimrock. In this case, it is a much more non-linear progression. There are many areas you can go to in any order. And doing so... oh, jeez. Doing so is actually important because not only will you find various secrets and things that may help you in other areas later, but you may also acquire these power gems. You will need these. You will need, I think, 4 of these to make a certain essence, and I believe that's tied into actually beating the game. But you don't have to acquire them in an extremely specific order, you just need to get the 4 from a group of areas around a shrine. And that basically is letting you know via game mechanics that you're not really linearly taken down a very specific path. You can choose your own, which I like a lot. That was not so much a complaint of the first game, because it was still, I mean, the dungeons were quite large, but you were only in one dungeon the entire time, and some people got a little bored of that. So I'm happy to say in this case, it's a little more difficult for you to get bored, I think, because there is so much variety in the areas you'll be seeing. What is this? Tome of Leadership. And some bullets. Now let's talk about some of the changes to basics here. Classes and races, many more of them. As you can tell, this guy right here is a rat man, or a ratling rather. Ratlings were not in the first one, and there are a few more, including the classics that you're used to, like the Minotaur. And classes are a bit different. I have an Alchemist here, for instance. Now, alchemy wasn't the first game, but it works a bit differently. But also, the Alchemist is skilled in firearms. Firearms are a weapon that was not in the first game at all. You had missile weapons like bows, and throwing weapons like daggers, but you didn't have firearms. In this case, you have those things and more. So I have an Arquebus right here, which was a bitch to get because it teleported me into a bunch of mummies. That was fantastic. About 11 or 12 mummies that were wailing on me for several minutes before I was able to escape with my delicious medieval rifle. And the basic, I would say, well, I'm not entirely sure how long the game is, actually. I was trying to think, but due to the fact that I haven't beat it yet, I can only assume that it is quite long. And due to the fact that there are so many areas to go to, I think you're going to be having a pretty good time if exploration is your thing, and it definitely is mine, as well as constantly trying to get many secrets. Gain party leader trait. That's awesome. Yeah, I'll take that. Nice. So the traits in this game, there are also many more of those, as you can tell, and you don't only choose your traits at the beginning, because you can gain traits through gameplay by finding those books and by getting certain levels and skills. Like, say, getting 3 points in light weapons gives you the dual wielding trait, and getting some in armor gives you light and heavy armor traits, etc., etc. And some of the traits are actually kind of interesting, like this mutation. Every time this guy levels up, he gets a random attribute +1. And Alchemist, as a class, gives some interesting things like, say, herbs actually multiply depending on how many steps you take. So I give him all of my herbs, and they will occasionally randomly multiply in his inventory. And the alchemy system works a bit differently. Let me go ahead and show that off. First difference is you actually have to equip yourself with the mortar and pestle instead of just using it from your inventory. And secondly, this is the alchemy interface. It's fairly similar, but you can combine ingredients like this in just sort of random amounts, and you can try to brew potions. And you can brew potions that you don't have a recipe for if you happen to get the combination correct and have the proper amount of skill points in alchemy. And the spell system is something I should also comment on because it's a bit different as well. As you can see, it appears just the same as the first game. However, you'll notice you can only select one rune at a time. And the change to that is it's more of a gesture-based magic system, because if you want to do spells that are multiple runes, you have to actually hold your mouse and drag him, like that, which allows you to cast the more complicated spells. And you can actually drag pretty much through the entire rune palette here and get all kinds of spells. So, yeah. And that actually makes the combat, I think, a little more active feeling, because that was one of the complaints of the first game, was that the combat felt a little passive, because oftentimes you were sitting still and just hammering the buttons until your enemy died. In this case, there are a lot more enemy types, so that isn't always possible. And secondly, enemies can actually dodge. They will cartwheel out of the way, they'll roll out of the way of your strikes, and being more active, like, strafing around like this and trying to keep yourself from getting hit too often is actually much more important. And that ties in with another change to the equipment system. I need to get out of here because I don't see a way in right now. Which is that a lot of weapons now have these special attacks, which you saw earlier by me holding the attack button like that, which causes your weapons to glow, and then you do a sort of special attack that a lot of weapons have access to, which is an interesting change, I think, again, for the better, because it makes the combat system feel a little more kinetic, and you'll find that there are multiple items like this that have special uses. That basically is like a magic torch, and you need certain skill levels to actually allow them to work, and you'll also find that there are things like this, which is a very powerful item that has a special attack that costs charges, and I'm pretty sure that once those charges are out, then you can't use it anymore. I have no idea if there's a way to recharge that, or what. But while I'm here, I might as well go ahead and show that there's a lot more equipment variety. As you can see, this guy's just equipped with all kinds of nonsense, and everyone can do that. Yeah, there's so many more items in this game that it's actually kind of incredible. You've got the things that you remember, as well as all kinds of sets, like this reed set here. I almost have all of it. And I think you'll find yourself having a lot of things in your inventory just because you want to keep all the cool-looking stuff that you found, which can be a problem for hoarders like me that just want all the things. But of course, in classic dungeon crawler style, you can make stashes by getting bags or boxes or just laying your equipment down in areas and remembering where you put it. And that is why you can do things like this and mark locations on your map, like I've marked a chest that I don't know how to get to here, and things like that, so you can remember where your item stashes are, and those will stay there pretty much for the entire game. Now, you're probably going to be wondering about the difficulty, because that was a big deal in the first game, that it was very challenging. You had to learn the enemy attacks, or else you weren't going to get very far. I'm happy to say that that is still the case. You have to learn a lot about the enemies, how they'll attack and how they move, and since there are so many more types of enemies, that is even more important. And also, because of the way they've changed combat to be a little bit more active, you're going to have to stay on your toes a bit more often, and you're also going to be encountering just more numbers of enemies in general, meaning, you're going to be finding groups of enemies that consists of, like I said, when I got attacked by like 12 mummies at once. You're going to be seeing stuff like that. Let's go into these ruins here. So this is something that you might be a bit more familiar with if you played the first game. Some closed-off, creepy ruins. And another thing I'm happy to say is that the variety and secrets in the game has massively increased. So you're going to be seeing things like the little hidden switches on the walls and things like that. There are actually many more types of those than there were in the first game, so that you can't figure them out as easily. Also, is that some sort of ice elemental? And in general, what that means is, see it right there. Boop. In general, what that means is you're going to be paying a lot more attention to the walls. Okay, so that only lasts for a certain amount of time. I see. Do I have to go quickly? Nice. A bronze brace. Potion of Resurrection. That sounds useful. Okay, let's see what that does. Bronze brace. Resist shock. Minus 20. Critical chance plus 3. Huh. That goes there. I think I might give that to him. And a Potion of Resurrection, I'm guessing, yep, it restores a dead character. Okay. So again, I hope that... it's obvious. Sorry, quick saving. That there's so much more to this game than the first. These guys, I think, know what they're doing. And as you've noticed, the game is also gorgeous. It is actually beautiful. The texture quality and things like that is, like, just incredible, and it is like that throughout every area that I've been to so far. Which is impressive for multiple reasons. Mostly because with so much more variety in the areas you're actually going to be going in, they've had to do a lot more work with keeping very high texture quality across the board and just making an interesting aesthetic to the game, and they've succeeded in my opinion. You find really cool pyramids, ruins, cemeteries, all kinds of stuff like that that are actually quite pretty. And I'm constantly walking around being fascinated by how the game actually looks sometimes. Okay, so what it looks like is when you step on one of these, it powers up one of those floating bridges. So what you're going to want to do is lay items in a certain configuration on these pressure plates to make sure you can cross on top. That's interesting. I'm not sure about that yet, but it looks like that door only opens if you don't have anything on those in the first place, so that's a bit of a challenge. And that stays throughout the entire game. Yeah, puzzles. Just puzzles, puzzles, puzzles everywhere, but the puzzles are actually fun, in my opinion, and they make you think. They make you think in a more logical fashion as well. So what I think I'm going to do is throw a rock over there. Just going to open that one. I'm going to just drop a rock down there. Then I'm going... throw a rock over there. Nope, no I'm not. That's not gonna happen. I'm gonna get on this. Throw a rock over there. Drop a rock down there. Oh god! So that's not gonna happen apparently. There we go. But now when you go down here, then the door closes. Oh, that's annoying. This is going to be one of those puzzles that takes a long time to figure out for people like me. Oh, God. Alright. Alright. Just trying to show off... There we go. The game in the best way I can here. What are some of the other differences? Let's see. Tile set-wise, there are huge numbers. Because of the climates and things like that you're in require a lot more of them, and that is something they paid attention to. So all of the bogs and the you know the swampy areas, and as you saw the cemetery and things like that, the actual way that everything looks matches the atmosphere, which I like a lot. Ow. The increase in weapon variety and stuff is a huge deal because it makes the combat just less boring. It's not actually boring at all, in my opinion. A lot of people, that was some of their least favorite part, you know, of the first game was actually fighting things. The exploring and secret finding and stuff was what people liked the most. And that's still awesome. Secret finding and everything is a very big deal still. But the combat's a lot more interesting this time around. So, you may have noticed that there was water up there earlier. You can actually go under that water as well. I thought that maybe if I went into it I would like instantly lose or something, but no, that's actually, that's part of the exploration. You will need to go into those areas to solve puzzles sometimes and explore a bit. But you gotta be careful because of course you can't breathe underwater. I imagine there might be like a water-breathing potion or something that wouldn't surprise me. And in general, I think what you're hopefully noticing is just content, which was a big deal, you know, for a lot of people. That the first one was awesome but short, and you're seeing that this just has a ton more content in general. There's just more things, more stuff to do, and that's important because it makes the game last a lot longer, and of course, the custom dungeon tools have been enhanced even more, and it will ship with the dungeon editor. So you can edit your levels and things just like before, and you're just as able to do that, and maybe even more so. My fighter has leveled up, so what's accuracy do? Melee attacks from the back row. Increases protection. I don't really need any light weapons right now. Let's do armor 3. Boop. There we go. So yeah, I think general experience for me so far is it's like the first one but better in every way. And that's saying a lot because I really, really liked the first one, like way too much. And just seeing... What was that? Just seeing how much they did to actually enhance the experience is very important to me. Because when they announced that they were going to make a second one, a lot of people were pretty excited for good reason. And then there was a little bit of skepticism with, you know, what are they going to do new? And I'm pretty happy to say that a lot, actually, is what they're going to do. Huh. Okay, so I try. Oh, was that back at the beginning? That I opened that door back at the beginning? Okay. So I think it's pretty clear, hopefully, from this video that what you're expecting, and you can pick this up on Steam tomorrow or today at the time of uploading for $25, I believe, your original equivalent, which is pretty good in my opinion. That is a solid price, and I think with the proliferation of custom dungeons and you know, things like that that the first game had, you're going to be seeing a ton of content pretty early on, because actually, once the tools were released for the first one, people just made all kinds of ridiculous new adventures and things like that, and since this game is actually shipping with that tool, you're going to be seeing a lot of nonsense, I think, so it should be great. I look forward on release day to looking at the Nexus and seeing what people have created, because some of those adventures that people created were just evil. Yep, that's the door I opened. Okay. So it turns out this ice elemental guy is a little strong. And this is what I was talking about with the more kinetic combat. You're seeing that this guy has a lot of directional attacks and things like that. Which, oh god, which means you have to actually move out of the way. And not be, you know, directly in front of him like a doofus in order to live. And I'm failing at that miserably right now. Just like in the first game, dead characters can be revived at a crystal, and that won't refill your hunger, however. Nice. Hunger goes in 3 stages. Hunger goes from, ooh, fireball, nice, too bad. My mage is dead. Hunger goes from a green bar, which does nothing, to a yellow bar, which has no penalty, but is saying that you're hungry, so hey, please feed your guys. And eventually the bar turns red, which will basically mean that their health and energy will not naturally regenerate anymore, which is bad. Because, just like in the first game, you can do this and rest. Resting, of course, advances time, which is relevant to the day-night cycle. It heals up your people, and it makes monsters come attack you because they don't like you very much. So, ooh, damn, put that. I really need to clean out this guy's equipment. But alchemy skill, maybe, or accuracy. Accuracy. Okay. So there you go, everyone. This is Legend of Grimrock II, available today on Steam and GOG. I will link you to both of those pages so that you can check them out and decide which one's for you. I really hope that you'll give it a try, because it's actually fantastic in my opinion, and Almost Human have done it again, really. They've created something unique and a callback to an older time without actually having the clunk and unnecessary things that some of the older school versions of games like this had. Because as much as I loved them, they were a bit clunky, the interface wasn't the best, and there were some serious issues with them, so they've successfully taken the old school formula and brought it into the modern era and made sure that the old school clunk didn't come with it, which is something that a lot of companies don't do when they say, hey, we're making something retro. They oftentimes have some of the unfair, annoying parts of those retro experiences as well, which is not why we fondly remember them. Welcome back to the world, Mage. I'm sorry I killed you. So there you go. I hope this has been a fairly good video. I know I haven't made a huge amount of progress. That's because the game is it's pretty heavily story-based, and I would like to not spoil too much, because all the puzzles and things are very, very satisfying to figure out on your own. And I'd rather not show off like a million solutions in a video. But as a little final note, check this thing out. This big, crazy, evil pyramid thing. It looks amazing. I don't know how to get into it yet. I'm sure that symbol is important and I should look for it elsewhere. That's usually how that sort of puzzle like that would work. And, oh! Hidden from sight. And I think, if this is your type of thing, you're going to be enthralled by this, I think, from the get-go. You are probably going to just be pulled into this island and not want to leave for a while. Sunrise beyond the gate to find him. That sounds like the cemetery, so I should go back there soon. And hopefully this is good. If anyone has any questions or any, things to say, feel free to comment. And I would appreciate it if you would like the video and subscribe. Yep, I'm doing that. Some people say that and it's really annoying, but I'm going to say it because I like it. And if there's anything you would like to see, anything like that, feel free. I always like to answer questions, and for games like this is one of those games that people are going to be looking up footage for because it's just so different from what they're used to that they don't know if they're going to like it or not. And $25 isn't necessarily cheap. So they want to know if it's worth it. And that's the point of a video like this, so if someone wants me to show off something specific to help them with their purchase decision, let me know, because the game's worth it, and I would like for as many people as possible to get in on this, because I think Almost Human actually deserves quite a bit of recognition for bringing a genre like this back so successfully without bringing back all of the annoying bits that some of the older games had. So there you go, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you next time. I'm going to go back to that evil cemetery now and try not to dig up any more horrible zombies and get my entire team killed again. Goodbye.